Alright, hello friends, and welcome back to another exciting episode of Our Life, Beginnings and Always, Baxter's Route. We have finished all of the moments of Step 3 except for Serendipity. I will not be playing Serendipity again in this playthrough, which means that we can end the summer, and I, for one, am very excited to see this summer ended sequence and what exactly is going to happen here. We will skip some of the things that we saw in Cove's route because we've already read those, but I am excited to get into step 4 of this game. I'm really excited to see Baxter in step 4 and everything that has changed throughout the years, and I'm just gonna hop right into it. All right, let's go. The clatter of a suitcase hitting tile brought you back to reality. You'd been zoned out for some amount of time. How long was impossible to guess. But you were in Baxter's room. It was almost exactly 24 hours since the last time you'd been together, during the big goodbye get-together the previous day. The scene in front of you then was familiar in a way. You were sitting on his bed and watching as he packed. But there was none of the franticness or excitement of a fast-approaching trip to the mountains. In this moment, every motion Baxter made was slow and laborious. This was the end of his time in Sunset Bird. When the job was done, it would be finished. When you'd first arrived at his place, Baxter and you reminisced over a summer well spent, one overall too soon. The task of putting his things into bags was drawn out enough for all possible conversation to have been spent in a quiet to creep in. That's how you gotten sucked into your own head, a private reflection on the person in front of you. Baxter Ward had been the harbinger of change in the tiny town, an inescapable sign that the life you'd known for nearly your entire childhood was also coming to an end. But he had become your normal over the summer, and now he was going to change it all again by going away. A part of you wanted to jump out of reality again. In your mind, Baxter was ever present, but in this room, Baxter had just finished the last task before he left for good. You stared at the neatly gathered bags around Baxter's fancy black shoes. When did that happen? Your gaze drifted to his face, unsure. Baxter was watching you too, and smiling sweetly.
Thank you
for visiting me once more, Kit. I'm fully settled now, and it is getting late. I believe the time has come for you to return home. More accurately, but harder for Baxter to admit, it was time for him to return home. But he simply tapped his suitcase with his foot and kicked the real farewell down the road. Would you mind if I saw you out? You climbed off of his bed. Obviously, I wouldn't mind. Come on.
Very well.
The bags were left as they were for the time being as Baxter escorted you to the front door and onto the street. You both stood there in the very place where you were first reunited. Baxter put his most agreeable smile to work. It was there, though called in on what should have been a day off. I suppose this is the most fitting place to say goodbye. It's unlikely we'll see another again before I'm gone. That was it. No getting around things, this was goodbye. Hesitantly, he held up his arms for a farewell embrace. Absolutely. Hug. You walked up to Baxter, tucking your hands around his back. His arms crossed over each other behind you, and the both of his hands came to rest on your shoulders. Baxter had tied himself to you with a bow. You enjoyed every second of it. Then, when you finally untangled yourself, you put just enough distance between you so you could see each other's faces. Baxter spoke again with a new tenderness to his tone. It was so wonderful meeting you. This has been the best summer, best any particular season I've had in years. I'll never forget a minute of it.
Goodbye.
And I sincerely hope you will find someone who will make you happy and fulfilled. You're suited only for the best. Goodbye, Kit. I hope you find happiness too. I knew that there were gonna be options for like being upset that he's breaking up with you. He's leaving. We started this saying it was only going to be for the summer. I don't know why people are so angry when they play this. He breaks up with you? Oh my god, yeah. I hope you find happiness too. I guess it was great having a summer together and you were content to let him go now, but I also I want to keep in touch. This cutting of ties didn't come as a surprise to you. Baxter had always spoke about the vacation as a finite, separate thing from the rest of his life. None of it was going to be carried on besides the bounds of the now leaving sign. Baxter wasn't like Miranda's older brother and his boyfriend, and that was totally okay. He was free to move on. You were going to, too. Hey, Baxter? If there's ever a chance for us to see each other again for some reason at some point in the future, would you do that? Okay, CG. He turned his back to you, beginning the process of separation promptly. Damn, Baxter only spoke over his shoulder. I could say yes to that and have it be true on a technicality. Under normal circumstances, technicalities are my friends, yet it would be in poor taste here. A chance of that nature won't come, after all, and I don't intend to mislead you in the final hour.
I won't trouble you further.
Instead, all I can earnestly promise is that I will miss you. He was serious. This was the end of the line for his association with you. You looked into Baxter's obscured face for the last time, and... nod, but they don't have nod, so I guess I'll smile. Bye, Baxter. Baxter didn't say anything else. He didn't react. He only stepped forward and closed the door of his rented condo. He was gone. Ever a man of his word, you didn't see Baxter Ward ever again. Oh no! Hey, which epilogue do you want to play? Oh, that's super fun that you get to choose, Baxter. Okay, we even get a separate in-between. That's fun. That's fun. I think I still have pink hair. No. Okay. I don't think there's anything that I need to change. I could actually put my voiced name here. Hold on. Hold on. I'll find it. Somewhere in the case.
Kit!
Why are you so excited? Okay. Because last time, throughout all of that, I did not have a voiced name on. Let me see. Rosy cheeks. Ooh. Birthmarks. My birthmark's on my foot, so. Scars, no. Freckles, hecka. Braces, no. Okay, done. Oh, and we are my feelings for Cove. Sorry, I didn't know this was about Cove. Direct fond. Seems good. This is so weird. Why are you giving me a feelings for Cove thing? Cove customization. Hold on. Okay, I kept him largely the same, but I changed his hair and his shirt because... oh, and his body type because yet again he was buff. Done. And he is warm, sporty. Okay. My feelings for Baxter, on the other hand. Ooh, do I want to go crush or do I want to... I guess let's go crush? I don't know. I can always come back here. Let's go crush. Ready. What initiative level would you like Baxter to have for step 4? I don't remember what he had in step 3. Middle. And so your days growing up in the loving cradle of Sunset Bird came to an end. I'm gonna skip all of this that we read in Cove's. So give me a second. Don't worry though, I need you guys to know I can still live with Cove and his fish. Fuck yeah. As for the person who'd left town and you behind, oh, I love that. You called and texted and Baxter never answered. You never even tried to make him talk to you. Baxter was obviously not interested. I'm gonna say I texted. But you still looked back on those summer days fondly. He made the season special, and you'd always remember that. It seemed your thoughts and feelings would go unheeded by him for the rest of your life. And then there was Cove. Of course, he's still a very important person in your heart. I like Cove as your family, and he always would be. He thrived. When Cove eventually developed a picture of the future he wanted to have as an adult, it made perfect sense to you based on his interests. He went to college to study marine biology. Okay. Different from the first time that we played, because I'm pretty sure he skipped college, but okay. He wants to become a natural resource technician, and he still volunteers at Orca, of course. And he's autistic. We knew that already. Of course, growth and change didn't only occur to the people you knew most directly, it happened to everyone. And a particularly exciting bit of news came in the form of an engagement announcement. Miranda's older brother, Jude, was proposed to by his longtime boyfriend, Scott Adam, the guy you'd known as Grant. Learning his actual name after all those years was almost as incredible as finding out the two were getting married. After being long distance for a few years, Scott had moved to California to get a place with Jude. You'd even met him in person more than once when visiting Randy and Terry. Both men in the couple were welcoming whenever you'd come around. They loved to look out for Miranda and her little friends. They were in their 30s, so someone barely in the double decades was basically still a kid. It was like having two big brothers. They sent you a very official letter of invitation to their special day through the mail. Terry and Randy were obviously guests as well, though it was something of a surprise when Cove ended up on the list. He didn't have a personal relationship with either groom. But Cove had attended many Eckert events throughout his life. Plus, Jude and Scott weren't harsh enough to leave one member of the usual gang out. Now, the wedding was fast approaching. I wonder who their wedding planner is. It was set to be a fantastic gay? Sure, yeah, with friends, family, and a celebration of the bonds that brought you all together. Unfortunately, making that plan a reality was easier said than done. The happy couple ended up in need of some help. A lot of it. You squinted into the afternoon sun on a quiet suburb street, one bag slung over your shoulder and a suitcase in hand. You'd arrived at the Adam Eckert household, your place of residence, for the next week about. It'd been weeks since you'd started making plans to come down for the wedding. You weren't going to miss it. However, it was a one-day affair, and coming this far in advance was a last-minute request, okay? Jude, Scott, Terry, Miranda, and the rest of the Eckert clan had been putting— I like that Terry's part of the Eckert clan now— had been putting on the wedding entirely by themselves. They managed the DIY process as best as they could over a few months. But it turned out arranging a marriage ceremony and reception was not on the same level as birthday parties, graduation celebrations, and family reunions. The date was nearly upon them, things weren't finished, and neither man wanted to lose the venue. With no way to magically conjure up more hours in the day, their solution was to have more hands on deck to finish prep work. That was where you came in, and how you went from simply being a guest in attendance to joining the official party planning posse. You were glad to do it for them. They'd have come to your aid if you ever needed something. I don't know how far away Cove and I live. It's probably a short trip. Miranda was the first to come up to you, circling around from the other side of the vehicle. She was just beaming. You held out your arms so she could hug you. As much as you missed her, you had to dive into the car as soon as the van door opened at the pickup spot. This was your first chance to stand together face to face, okay? Miranda squeezed herself against you, giggling with fresh excitement. It was like being a teen again. Oh, I can get that for you. She reached towards the suitcase as she spoke her intentions. It's the least I can do for all the help you're giving us. It's fine. I'm not even tired.
Okay.
The last one out was Terry. He hopped from the driver's seat, ready for action. Get this all put away. Sounds like you want to pack me in a box or something.
Nah.
Not yet. We can't ship you back until the wedding's over. You chuckled, of course. I really want to go for the, but I'll also accept a hug. Terry threw an arm around your shoulder in response, pulling your heads together. The stubble of his buzz-cut sides tickled your cheek. Time to bring the party inside, buds. He didn't need to say more. Miranda speed-walked ahead, her sun hat flapping from her firm, determined steps. She had the spare key to her brother's place. You all would have been stranded on the curb without her. Miranda got it unlocked, opened the door, and gestured for the others to come on in. All three of you went inside. Okay, nice. Mission accomplished. We've successfully dropped off Kit. The reason you were crashing there was because Terry and Randy lived in a tiny city apartment, while Scott and Jude had an entire house. The extra space and free accommodations were big reasons you were able to do this to begin with. If you had to get a hotel room, the plan would have been shot. The downsides of living in a tourist-heavy area and of getting married during the most popular season. But it worked out, and that's what mattered. Their home was a chill and comfortable-looking place, as long as you imagined what it was like without the absolute mess everywhere. The living room had obviously been co-opted into the base of the operations for their crafting endeavors. Every inch of countertop and even flat enough cushions were piled high with supplies. What is my first assignment? I'm glad you asked. You can relax or unpack or anything. Later today, we're going to meet up with Jude and Scott for dinner at this seaside seafood restaurant. Off to the side, Terry's arms folded with mock seriousness.
So?
Technically, it's a business meeting to make the hiring official, but who cares? Not me, definitely not Jude, and Scott does care, but in the opposite way. He's going to be waiting for us. Besides, we're all part of the party planning group, so we've got to meet the MVP. Wait, they actually found a planner who'd do this job? I still don't know how much he can do this late, but it's probably better to have somebody who knows what they're doing around. Exactly, Randy. It's gonna come together great. I hope so. Miranda sighed wearily. While you started your career on the committee approximately 5 minutes ago, it had already been a long journey for the rest of the crew. Wear and tear and frayed nerves were to be expected. However, your presence had lifted their spirits. Miranda perked up when she spoke again. I'll show you which room is yours, Kit. Cool. Okay, nice. She escorted you upstairs. Terry lingered behind. He assumed you didn't need 2 people overseeing your unpacking.
See you.
You can use the bathroom right across the hall for showers and everything. I'll give you some privacy, but you can always come downstairs if you wanna. See you soon. Bye. It was a relief to not rush out the door. You popped open the suitcase and began to settle in. You were also sure to text family and friends to let them know you'd made it there safely. After all that, you were able to rest. Your mind calmed, and slowly it sunk in that you were actually back in the area. You were home. Kind of. In one direction up the highway was Prism Vista City, and the other, Sunset Bird. That was the most unusual thing. You weren't in either of those locations, but a strange place in between. As the sun began to set, a knock landed against the door. Terry called through. Dinner time. Nice. You got your phone off the charger, a few other things, and joined up with Terry in the hall. Then you both linked with Randy on the first floor. Once more, the 3 of you piled into Terry's van. He pulled out of the driveway with great haste. You were bound for another long-awaited reunion. It took about 20 minutes to reach the restaurant. The place had to be popular since the only open space was at the very end of the lot. You leisurely exited the vehicle and stretched in the warm air. Terry and Miranda ambled over in no rush until you glanced towards the building. Because there they were. Right at the front, the curly-haired Jude and this bespectacled Scott. Neither of them were easy to miss on their own, and together they were unmistakable. Hey Jude, dude. Hi, Grant.
Hey!
Miranda took Terry's arm, dragging him across the tarmac. Whoa. You had to break into a light jog to not be left in the dust. The couple of the hour amiably greeted your little group. Jude Eckert and Scott Adam. Miranda's one and only brother was living the typical Californian software development dream, okay? Jude's partner Scott was easily able to transfer his physical therapist career to a new state when he moved. Both of them needed to take time completely off from their packed schedules in the lead-up to the wedding. Miranda's workload was almost non-existent already. She was normally a teacher's assistant while continuing her education. School was out for her students and herself. It was a bit more awkward for Terry, whose lifeguard services were in high demand during that season. But the whole team was committed to getting things done, no matter what.
You made it.
Yeah. That was sort of meant for everyone, but mainly Jude was talking about you. Scott made the special attention even more transparent.
Hi.
So nice seeing you, Kit. Hey. Do high fives. Let's go. I don't know. Let's just wave. They responded in kind. Scott's enthusiastic flail looked all the more frantic compared to Jude's single, relaxed arc. And hello, Terry and Miranda. Scott finally addressed the other people there. Hi, again. What are you doing? I thought you had a table. Her big brother answered with a carefree, or perhaps careless, smile.
Relax.
The other guy is holding it down for us.
Huh?
Jude, you left your new wedding planner by himself in the restaurant? For who knows how long? Yeah. Miranda's gaze was withering. As sweet as she normally was, her siblings could test her patience like nobody else. But Jude's fiancé came in with an equally unapologetic defense.
It's okay.
He didn't mind. We had to be here to meet you. Besides, none of the real planning is happening today. It won't start until tomorrow. We're not missing anything. It's kind of awkward for the planner, though. Well, let's give him some company.
Good call.
The meetup moved inside as everyone filtered into the fancy restaurant. Jude signaled to the host and got a nod, recognized as someone who'd already been seated, so your group passed on by to the seating area. Jude and Scott had already taken their place as the leaders of the squad, guiding the rest of you to the right place. Terry remained hot on her heels while Miranda kept close to him. That left you bringing up the rear. Threading through the white-clothed furniture, or clothed, perhaps, you noticed how most of them only had room for 2 or 4 people. Your party would be 6 in number, counting the planner. You had to be situated at the far end of the room just because of that. The others came to a stop directly in front of a window with a glorious view of the sun setting over the ocean. That must be the spot. You tilted and stretched your neck in an attempt to see through a gap in the small crowd of people, and you managed to catch a glimpse of the table. A young man was already seated, his legs crossed primly, his chin resting ever so delicately against a hand. Swept hair and a tailored suit spoke of a high level of care and attention to details. In the reddish light of evening, his brown eyes shone like rich pools of dark honey, and on his neck was a distinct beauty mark, a living portrait of class. That was the wedding planner. Baxter, what? Like, I'm surprised. He seemed super professional. He wondered who he was. No, absolutely. Here we are. Anyway, yeah. This is everybody we've got. My sister, her boyfriend, and her friend. Baxter's focus shifted away from the sea views to acknowledge his clients. I wonder what would happen if you said that you didn't recognize him. The man's focus shifted away from the sea views. Seeing the new company, his already heavily lidded eyes narrowed further. The softness in his smile pinched. Of course, you were related to the other Eckert I've met. Why wouldn't you be? The vague comment didn't pass Jude for a second. He was incredulous in an instant.
What?
You know Miranda? Well, no elaboration. He brushed it off with an actual brush through his hair, but Terry caught on the implication and chimed in. Randy, you recognize this guy? She faltered in a similar way, unable to commit to denying, but not able to confirm either. You couldn't see the faces of her friends. They huddled together to discuss with Miranda in a way that gave you a clearer view of Baxter. He was demurely scrutinizing the reactions, tapping a finger against his cheek and gauging what to do next. Oh man, there's so many good options. There's so many good options. Maybe they would have recognized you if you were wearing black and white. But I also and here I thought you were never coming back, Stir. God, that's so good. That's so good. I think I'm gonna go with maybe they would have recognized you if you were wearing black and white. But this is such good wordplay. Baxter's palms cracked against the tabletop. I know you, bitch. He abruptly stood, almost knocking the chair over. It was entirely out of place with the restrained countenance you'd always known Baxter to maintain. By the way, can we just talk about how much nicer he looks at... What age are you now? 24? I think. Hold on. 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. I'm 23, so you're 24. You look so much nicer at 24. And at 14, to be fair, than you did at 19. The black and white hair was really not for you. Anyway, at his full height, he searched past the others and finally saw the last person attending this meeting. You. Miranda gasped. Terry shouted. Ah!
Yeah!
Baxter? Baxter is his name, yep. How do you know this dude? The pointed question was shot your way. He corrected himself, lifting a hand to assure you it was fine to forget it.
Hey.
How do you know my little sister? Jude newly directed the interrogation towards who he considered to be the real problem. Baxter stared into your face. He breathed deep, unsteadily. They became disconcertingly quiet after the initial explosive reaction. The sounds of other guests chatting over their meals, the clinking of silverware, servers bustling about, it all vanished. Were the other people even still in the room? It was impossible to tell. You couldn't even move to check. Then, the moment passed. Baxter grinned wide and ran his hand down the silky edges of his jacket to smooth it out. A familiar gesture for calming his nerves.
Life is full of unexpected coincidences,
Interesting. Why has your voice gotten higher as you aged? To be fair, I did not like the deep voice at all, but interesting. As you might vaguely remember, my name is Baxter Ward. With a casual flip of his wrist, Baxter gave a brief account of your shared history. 5 years ago, I stayed in Sunset Bird for a summer vacation during a semester off in college. We spent a bit of time together then. By we, I mean the three of you, along with one other. Cove was his name, I believe.
I apologize.
Okay, we're back to the deep voice. Now, in the hopes of starting off on the right foot, let me apologize for my younger self. Damn, I was embarrassingly immature in how I handled our acquaintanceships.
I understand.
Entirely, if this is awkward. Just know that I'm open to any ideas on how to accommodate working together. I am fully committed to assuring that Mr. Eckert and Mr. Adam have a wonderful wedding. That is the only reason I'm here.
Huh.
It was certainly a revelation for the betrothed. I give up. Every person they'd enlisted to help with the wedding were a part of some past social group. Is there a problem with this? Terry, Miranda, Kit? They attempted to prompt a response from all of you.
Huh?
The other, normally happy couple in the group shared uneasy glances. Damn. It's not like Baxter did anything to me, but...
Is that all right?
It's nice of you to say it, though. Baxter Ward's attempt to ward off potential discomfort managed to have the complete opposite effect. He was apologizing for nothing. You'd all known he was there for that trip and then he'd go home. No one had been surprised. But you could get why he'd feel bashful about how he acted in hindsight, especially now that he was here as a working professional. Don't be so worried, it's fine.
I appreciate the understanding.
You didn't doubt how grateful he was to let bygones be bygones, even if his smile couldn't reach his eyes. Terry and Randy brightened properly, and that had the domino effect of putting relieved smiles on the faces of Jude and Scott as well. The mood was salvaged. Here. Baxter coolly moved the conversation along. The sooner the topic had nothing to do with his personal life, the better. I've got business cards for you. It has ways to contact me. Email, phone, the usual. Baxter didn't attempt to pass them out directly. Instead, he delicately placed a stack of cards on the table. They were such a stark white, the fancy cloth they rested on looking dingy. Sleek black cursive was printed across their front. Very formal. Next, Baxter retrieved a sleek black phone from his pocket. Black and white cards and a black phone. It could be a coincidence. Those color choices normally expressed a lack of interest in displaying any personality, especially with businessmen. Yet a part of you wondered if it was in reference to the unique way he'd utilized those shades in the past.
What do you think?
If possible, I could use your numbers. That will be useful for keeping everybody informed. There's a group chat for the wedding planning. I won't text you privately. You got it, boss. For the second time with Terry and the first for Miranda, numbers were exchanged with Baxter. Thank you. My number is the same. No. Go ahead and tell him. That was fine. He tapped away at the screen as you listed off the sequence before returning the phone to its side jacket.
It's settled.
Thank you for your cooperation. One final black and white object appeared from Baxter's pocket. His wallet, which held a green $10 bill, which he put next to the business cards. Please use this for my coffee. I'll take my leave. Oh, he saw us and he is scrambling out of here.
Wait.
You're going? We haven't even ordered. I don't want to intrude on a meal between friends and family, of course. We've met. He tugged at his collar over that understatement. Exchanged numbers, and the first official planning meeting was arranged before the others arrived. I'll leave you to catch up and discuss next steps on your own terms. I will see some, or perhaps all of you soon.
Take care.
Have a nice evening. After a polite incline of his head, Baxter slipped out of the corner through a gap in the crowd. In only a matter of seconds, he was gone. Again. You almost could have believed you'd hallucinated the entire encounter. The floral scent that lingered behind was in your mind. That money could have come from anywhere. Maybe Mr. Holden had been nearby. That was easier to wrap your head around than the actual reality, except for the piece of undeniable proof. He left business cards. It said, printed in ink, Baxter Ward, wedding planner, was a real entity. Miranda and Terry both took one each for future reference or idle curiosity. I probably kept his number saved even after 5 years. I'm really bad at deleting contacts. Did he have a new number those days? You peered down at the little piece of cardstock. You took the card to check the number. Alright, before our plans, tell me about that planner. What's the story? He was my neighbor for a little while. It's been 5 years since I've seen him. Yep. Baxter was this rich guy who showed up on Kit's street. Then he vanished. Nobody knew what happened to him. Terry, he went back to college.
No way.
Nobody knows. The ridiculous insistence got some chuckles. For how serious the job ahead was, it was nice you could still have fun together.
Wow.
He's right.
It's good he decided to come back. It would have been so hard to find somebody else to work for us. And about that. So before you made it, me, Jude, and Baxter decided to meet up tomorrow morning. We have an appointment at his office all penciled in. I'd like you to be there too, if you can. Tomorrow morning?
Sorry.
Yeah, Mr. Ward recommended it. Wow. Wow, he's really changed. That way, there'd be as much time as possible afterwards to make what was planned happen. Sorry to spring it on you. It was Baxter's idea?
Uh-huh.
He's got a point. It's not like we've got time to lose. How would that go? You had to wonder. What happened last time you tried to do something early with Baxter appeared clear as a morning sky in your mind's eye. Of course, that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
We'll be there. Aye, aye. Right, that's fine with me. This was a special moment to people who mattered to you. It was a point of pride to be one small part of it. And then Miranda kindly pointed out how this get-together was in a restaurant and could still be used for its intended purpose. It was a much appreciated suggestion. You spent a few minutes focused entirely on which delicious meal to have. No stakes, no pressure. The waiter returned, each person put in a request for dinner, and that was it. Menus were taken away and you only needed to wait. In the relative privacy of a back corner table, Terry solidly dropped his fist onto the table, as if calling a meeting.
Nah.
Baxter wasn't wearing black and white. I never thought I'd see the day.
Wow.
Baxter is a wedding planner? Miranda blurted out her own non sequitur with equal amazement. It makes sense he ended up as an event planner. No, yeah, I totally agree. Baxter is perfect to do that, but that almost makes it weirder. It's like someone made it up because it sounds reasonable. Well, anyway, I'm so happy it's almost your wedding. Starting shy and building up to more cheer, Miranda attempted to express her happiness for her big brother and his soon-to-be husband.
So great.
Thanks.
Oh, thank you, Miranda.
Agreed.
That's right. This is a time to celebrate. Congrats, my man, another man. Even though the final destination was many trials away, it was still shining on the horizon. You'd make it there. You were certain of that. I mean, congrats. The conversation was abuzz with excitement for the event to come. For now, anything sounded possible. Food soon arrived, and the topic switched again. You caught up on how things were going with each other overall, how your trip went, and all things besides the opaque man who left early. You had a great time with friends. Glad to be back. When the meal was over, goodbyes were exchanged. Terry and Miranda had to go back to their apartment, while Jude and Scott were going to take you to their house. The party planning committee broke into two teams after Terry was talked out of giving us special code names to the groups, with a promise of reuniting early the next day. Tomorrow morning, the work would officially begin. At the house, your host gave you space to finish sorting your things along with your thoughts. You tugged clothes from the suitcase in a total haze. It was dark outside, and indoors, the artificial lighting blurred around the corners of your eyes. Eventually, your phone lit up repeatedly. Plucking it off the side table where it had been charging, you checked to see what came in. It was the promised group chat. Baxter had messaged you, but also Miranda and Terry. Jude and Scott would see it as well, of course. They were the original members. Hello. Welcome to the planning chat, all. This is Baxter. Thank you again for assisting with the wedding prep. Our first meeting is tomorrow at 9 a.m. You can call or text if anything comes up or if that appointment isn't possible. See you soon. The short stream of text ended with a copy-paste of the exact address to his office. It was as pleasantly detached as you'd expect from a stranger you'd met briefly once and in the context of him providing a service for monetary compensation. But that wasn't the relationship you had. It could only be ignored, not erased. You hadn't even tried. You kept his number, and after all this time, it had appeared again. Baxter's contact hadn't changed. It was the exact same one you'd gotten in the summer of 2016. You still had a history together. Your fingers began to move before your conscious mind caught up with what was happening. You opened the old logs. The last time Baxter had texted you personally was 5 years ago. Seeing the most recent message was nostalgic. It was during that absolutely unexpected trip to the mountain he let you join in on. I'm downstairs. The final line he ever sent. That had been quite the night. Baxter had snuck out to the lobby and let you share in a private moment. For a time, it was like you and him were the only two people in the world. You'd felt you'd seen who he really was in the light of the fireplace. Being reunited was incredible luck. You wouldn't waste the chance. Suddenly, an actually recent message popped up at the top of your screen. It was Terry, lamenting how the overly formal language was gone from Baxter's texting speech. "It's so funny," he decried. You dropped the phone and smiled. Looks like you weren't the only one reminiscing about that silly black and white boy. He was gone, and he was there. Baxter Ward was simply an inexorable part of your life. Simultaneously, both at the same time. Let's call Cove. Technically speaking, I live with the man, so he should probably know. Cove is going to be at the wedding as a normal guest. He couldn't make it sooner to join the party planning committee. Just like the birthday party. To be fair, he did arrive earlier for your mom's anniversary the last time you'd both had to visit the area. It was your turn to go before him. So, from an entirely abandoned contact of one of your most frequently used numbers, you hit Cove's name on your phone. He was the person who truly knew Baxter then and should be informed of his return. Plus, you just wanted to talk. While waiting for him to answer, you wondered what he would have done if he had been there to see Baxter himself. You got the feeling he would have made quite the scene. That line of thought was cut off by the phone line being picked up.
Hey.
Hearing that familiar voice brought a smile to your face immediately. Cove was the one constant you could count on. How are you? Is everything going okay with the wedding? It was hard to say what counted as okay, given the extenuating circumstances of the planning. But that wasn't the topic you'd called to explain. You came right out with the shock of the century. Jude and Scott's wedding planner is Baxter Ward. Baxter Ward? Wait. Cove rolled the name over his tongue, catching the recognizable way it flowed. He'd said it before, but where? And why? You gave him a second. That guy? I like that everybody has forgotten Baxter Ward except for me. He got it. Yes, that guy.
Seriously?
And he's just there. Yes. What are you going to do? There was more than mere confusion in his reaction. Of course, he'd be nervous. This was about the worst possible time for that guy to materialize from the ether. I'm gonna see how it goes. That little noise didn't sound convinced, but he made an attempt to reassure you, and himself.
It's okay.
I'll be there soon, and you've got Terry and Miranda. Whatever Baxter does, it won't change that. Thanks, Cove. Though you don't need to worry so much. You could hear the gentle smile in Cove's voice. If you closed your eyes, you could convince yourself that he was by your side already. Okay. After the dust settled from that bomb, you spent the time chatting on other matters. But all too soon, you had to let the conversation end. On the promise of seeing each other soon, you hung up. Getting even a brief chance to speak with Cove was heartening. You placed the phone down for good. It had been tempting to make another call, but you needed to get into bed. Rest was the priority. It had been an eventful enough day already. You finished your trip there. You came face to face with Baxter Ward after 5 years. And the real work hadn't even started yet. At 8:45 the next morning, the wedding team of 5 crowded into Baxter's office. And crowded was the word. The first challenge your team faced was where exactly to sit. A single faux leather couch and scattered office chairs that went with desks were the available options. The space was not made for a crew of people, but considering it normally hosted couples, you couldn't complain. Scott, Jude, and Miranda sat in a row, snug on the couch like peas in a pod. Randy's legs were crossed over the cushion, so there was room for Terry on the ottoman. Okay. I'm stealing one of the desk chairs. Baxter didn't need 3 of those for himself, and you'd move it back when you were done. It was fine. The planner hadn't been there to see the groggy game of musical chairs. You were still waiting for him even then. Scott stared at the time on his phone, flinching at every minute closer to 9. Jude squished against him and rubbed his fiancée's back, so Baxter hasn't changed. As welcoming as the two had been, almost walking on eggshells to make sure nothing felt troubling, you were still aware of how tight the deadline was. They had to be feeling the pressure. Then when the clock struck 9, there was a knock on the door. Confused glances ebbed from Miranda's end of the couch down to your side, each person wondering if everyone else heard that. Who's there? The door swung wide open in response. Good morning, everyone. This is your office. There he was, shoes shiny, suit fresh pressed, hair swooped just so, with not a strand out of place, grin granite sharp. He looked even more self-possessed than at the restaurant. Obviously, this Baxter ward was perfectly capable of functioning before noon. I don't believe it. I don't believe it for a second. The overly grand way of speaking, the difficulty with mornings, the monochrome style, the desire to befriend everyone he met, none of his most recognizable characteristics seemed to have lasted. You had to wonder who he was really, if not all that. Hey, sup? Good morning. Hi.
Thank you.
For coming. Scott scrambled to hide his phone with one hand and used the other to keep from losing his glasses in the haste. Then something happened. Baxter's smile curved playfully, and his eyes narrowed. You blinked rapidly, almost expecting white streaks to materialize in his hair. This is my office. There's few other places I could go. Well, that attitude was familiar at least. Flawlessly poised, Baxter strode into the other half of the room and took a seat in the rolling office chair opposite the couch. He used the tips of his feet to smoothly twist the chair's position so that it faced the group completely. No comment was made on the chair you'd commandeered. I dare you to. Bitch. Now we know why we're here. I believe we should begin. Nods and low murmurs of agreement followed, until the entire room started from a sudden shout. Terry smacked himself against the side of his head. Oh wait! All eyes were on him. Terry beamed, keeping his attention squarely on Baxter. Since you've missed everything, I've got to tell you I'm a guy, okay?
Of course.
I understand. Thank you for talking about that with me. Cool. He sprung forward on the footstool. And I use a Y in Terry, not an I. My ears just died. Give me a second. Then Terry settled down from the second rapid interjection. He rolled a hand through the air as if to say, "Carry on. I will remember that." Baxter retrieved a notepad and pen from his inner jacket pocket.
So?
Normally, I'd love to hear as much about you two as you're willing to share. However, I am aware that we have a schedule to keep to. I'll stick to what's most relevant to the task at hand. I will still need to ask many questions. You'll need to bear with me. It's important to have all the specifics and make certain we're on the same page. I never want to simply assume I know what you want. Instead, I want to say for yourselves what your hopes and plans and ideas are. I get what you mean. We've made that mistake before. Scott messed with his ponytail. He chuckled at some private thought. It perked Baxter's smile. There was an interest beyond mere polite attention.
Oh?
The little hint to continue didn't go unheard. Scott was just that kind of person. If there was an opening to talk, he would fill it. Gladly.
The thing is,
when we were still long distance, actually starting from before we were even dating, I'd always go on about getting my nose pierced. At least once a year ever since I knew him, I'd talk it up to Jude how this time I was actually going to do it. Eventually, Jude stopped being convinced that I was going to do it on my own. He told me if I did seriously get one, he'd do it too, and then we could match.
well,
I did, and he did. Separately, in other states. And you can see for yourself, we had different ideas on what getting a gold nose ring meant. Yep, it was as plain as the noses on their faces. Jude had a gold horseshoe in his septum, meanwhile Scott had 2 golden hoops in one nostril. Now we have almost matching nose rings. Scott clapped his palms against his knees, ending the tale on that note. Jude's bellowing laugh followed immediately.
It's good.
I like our almost matching nose rings. And hey, now we've got real matching rings. He flexed his left hand, showing off the distinct black band. The 2 men had identical engagement rings. Unable to resist the temptation, Scott filled Jude's open hand with his own. Jude clasped him back. They were a delightful couple. Even a pro like Baxter could see it.
Charming.
Not to mention a good reminder that even if something doesn't go exactly as planned, that does not mean all it's bad. But of course, I'll do what I can to make the date everything you're dreaming of. He clicked the pen out. To start off, have we thought of possible surnames? Are either of you going to take the others, use hyphenation, not make any changes, so on?
Yeah.
I'm gonna have Scott's last name, Adam. Mr. and Mr. Adam it is. Baxter quietly vocalized the official name while jotting down his first note of the session. And what do you have finished already? A venue and food. And my cousin is a photographer, so that's covered. It's a caterer, that's what we have. There's no wedding cake, or any desserts, actually. Not that we need it. Who's gonna starve without cake? Cove Holden. Thank goodness he wasn't there to listen to such blasphemy. Almost nothing is technically needed to be married legally, but if we can have it, why shouldn't we? Sure, if there's any time. They went back and forth, trading comments and remembering points the other hadn't, huddled close on the couch. It was like watching a meeting between 2 kings and their semi-trusted advisor. Unfortunately, in the moment, it was comparable to kings coming from different countries rather than ones ruling together. Their approaches were not the same. The final guest list is done. Invitations were already sent. We've got speakers for music.
And?
There's no live band or DJ, it's just a playlist. And the ceremony and reception take place in one room. We have a runner and a podium for the ceremony. The location comes with chairs and tables, but there aren't a lot of decorations done. Leaning close and listening closer, Baxter pressed 2 fingers into his chin. Do you know what you'll be wearing? Scott's face ping-ponged between his planner and his fiancée. He stalled. We've got suits.
It's not great.
Suits we already own, he means. It's nothing special. We haven't bought or rented anything for the wedding, but what we have would work if there's no other way.
I see.
Baxter himself paused there, considering. A picture was beginning to form in his mind. Are there any traditions or extra touches you'd like to include in either the ceremony or the reception? I don't know. 5 minutes in and Scott was already sighing. He pressed his glasses higher on his face.
Oh.
If you couldn't tell, we haven't gotten far enough to consider anything extra. We're short on major parts still. The office chair creaked as Baxter rested against it. The gesture was disarming, physically pulling back from the non-stop questioning.
Bravo!
First, let me say that what you've already taken care of is commendable. My job is going to be far easier. Jude and Scott were absolutely flattered someone in Baxter's position had good things to say about the situation. With how much they'd put into their big day, getting some positive feedback must have been a real treat. They smiled shyly to one another. I'd like you to get me the contact info for the venue and caterer when you can. I'll put it in the group chat. Excellent. He gotten this meeting off on the right foot, intentionally so. Baxter pivoted to make his next move.
It's doable.
Second, there should be space to finish multiple tasks within the time we have and the amount of people who can assist. So let's prioritize and delegate. Desserts and decorations are foremost. Then only if there's room would anything else be done. Possibly selecting new clothing for the occasion? Is that what I'm hearing? Yes. Sure. Throughout the extended interview, you, Terry, and Miranda have been silent. Scott and Jude might very well have forgotten you were in the room. At that point, your job was to listen. You'd only act once the decisions were ready to put into action. But watching Baxter work as a professional planner was a surreal experience. He seriously did look like he knew what he was doing. He was asking the right questions, reading the room. Baxter's skills had grown considerably since helping with Miranda's birthday party. We've already got stuff we're working on at our place. We're making guest favors. No clue where we'd get a cake.
It's true.
Me neither. I tried, but how do I know if they're any good at it? Who orders a wedding cake before their wedding? Being able to make other desserts doesn't mean you can do that decently. If you're willing to take recommendations, I am acquainted with a baker. Xavier comes highly recommended by my previous clients, and I can vouch for them personally. Did you get your wedding cake from them? What a question! Scott meant it with complete sincerity. He has no ring. Oh? So?
No.
I am unmarried at the moment. Entirely single, in fact. But I would hire them for my own if I did have the occasion. You didn't know what the perception was of unwed wedding planners. Baxter wasn't flustered by the circumstances regardless. He chuckled amiably. It smoothed the mild bump right over. Scott hadn't even registered the pitfall that was barely avoided. He was getting excited. Things were finally coming together. Alright, we'll go there. What are we gonna get? We can discuss it. Yeah, how long is it gonna take? Can we order today? The pressure Baxter intentionally released was layered on extra thick with Jude's cut-to-the-finish take on the bakery. That is possible. Seeing time is of the essence, you wouldn't be able to do a tasting session. That means you'll have to trust the flavors will be to your liking.
In that case...
Getting common or familiar options would be my suggestion, but you can certainly try something more unique if your heart is set on it. Are there any allergies we need to consider?
That's whatever.
Get chocolate and some vanilla. In this case, Baxter didn't accept the first answer he received. Baxter's keen eyes went to Jude's other half for a second opinion. Scott gulped.
I don't know.
What else to pick off the top of my head? We can think a little longer. Baxter kept his tone approachable, harmless. He was having to double as a therapist, gently coaxing clients to speak their mind. No, I really don't know. We should get chocolate and vanilla. Everybody will like that. That's fine. It's a classic. Chocolate and vanilla. The note was taken down. Baxter pressed firmly into the paper at one point. A period.
What do you think?
Do you have any design notes? Normally that'd be done with the baker, but again, limited schedule. I imagine you don't want to sit down and get acquainted with someone new. We can have the details prepared ahead of time to expedite the process. What designing does a cake need? That depends on you. Cakes can come in about any style you can imagine, and many more styles you'd never think of on your own. Scott almost leapt from his seat over that topic. Maybe he would have if he wasn't so pressed in on all sides.
That's true.
I saw a lot of pictures when I was looking at bakeries. They can be so cool. People make these 3D carved cakes into shapes of things. It doesn't look like a cake at all. There were few opportunities in life when you could justify spending a lot of money on an incredible cake. The prospect of that time being now had Scott more excited about the planning than anything else so far. You can even get a cake that's a car. Seriously, a car, with working headlights and everything. Jude loves his car more than me some days. Only a few weeks out of the year, you get me most of the time. They shared a laugh. The meeting was becoming friendly, more fun. The two could enjoy the process past all the stress of it. Except...
Not happening.
But building a cake car isn't gonna work. No one could do it. Unfortunately, Jude was correct on that count. Baxter's recommended baker had to be good, however, humans could only do so much. A custom confection vehicle in a matter of days with no prior notice was asking for there to be no cake at all. In fact, it made baking cupcakes the night before an event look like a piece of cake. Perhaps a compromise is in order. For example, a typical tiered cake with some modeled decorations. Who's gonna notice? Baxter lowered his pen. The positive momentum had been lost. This does need to be wrapped up under a stressful timeline, however, there is room to still have what you actually want. I want a cake you can eat. I want that too. It doesn't need a lot of fancy stuff, we're not fancy people. Mm-hmm.
Very well.
I see. The future Adams might not have been particularly prissy, but as a bona fide fancy man himself, Baxter was personally insulted by the repeated dismissiveness of all formalities. At least he would have been 5 years ago. You had no idea what he was thinking now. His expression was inscrutable. It was only clear that he was continuing to pay close attention. Well, I won't pressure you to do more than you'd like, but I think we should at least pick a couple words to denote the overall theme. Traditional, vintage, modern, such.
Uh-huh.
Finished, and not ugly. Jude wouldn't bite no matter how appetizing the treat. Baxter reevaluated his approach. Those should go without saying with this baker. If it doesn't matter in particular to you, that isn't a problem. Scott, do you have a preference? I'd want something that seems modern. Old-fashioned cakes are not my style. Or in less diplomatic terms, the sight of frou-frou buttercream piping might make him break out in hives, despite the lack of allergies. Absolutely. That's the approach. What's the actual presentation? Simplistic, elegant, floral, beachy.
Would that be alright?
Could it be simple and elegant? Scott thoughtfully scratched the stubble along his jaw as his gaze wandered. That combination of descriptors was one of the possibilities he couldn't even imagine, apparently.
Certainly.
Then that, right? He glanced at Jude instinctively. As dismissive as Jude had been about the cake, Scott remained hopeful his partner would feel positive about it.
Great.
Perfect. Jude meant it. Even if it wasn't what Scott had wanted, it was enough. I'm glad you think so. In that case, since you're thinking of keeping it simple and prioritizing flexibility, I could visit the bakery for you to make the request. You have other obligations to take care of, I imagine. I can confirm the budget through text when I get a quote. Do you know the amount of tiers you'd want? You tell us. You've seen how big our party is.
Alright.
I can certainly give my take. For a wedding of your size, I would suggest 3 tiers, at least.
Done.
Guess so.
That's good. We're going to have a wedding cake. Compared to how enthusiastic Scott started at the outset of the topic, the conclusion was like a cake that didn't get baking powder mixed in the batter. Flat. Still, it seemed any cake would do, literally and metaphorically. Jude didn't care, and Scott wouldn't push it. Baxter's planning abilities had been tested there, and the only one who came out fully satisfied was Jude.
I can do that.
I believe I know everything I need at the moment. I can put in that order for you today. Thank you for so much help. But somebody should go with you to be sure. I can do it. Would the rest of you be good making favors? Probably. Amazingly, the single-word response was said with a shrug. That didn't fill Scott with confidence.
I'm not sure.
Maybe someone else should go to the bakery. Jude? He can handle it. We got a planner, so he can do his things and we can do our things. The friction of disagreement didn't frazzle Mr. Ward. He calmly interjected with a suggestion. If the two of you are the most informed about the guest favors, then somebody who doesn't know what that process as well could attend the bakery with me. Jude is right, you know. You are lucky to have others here to assist, and it isn't me alone. We can share the responsibilities. Randy and Terry have been helping out. Kit just got here. We have to show them how to do it. Scott grabbed his fiance's shoulder as he piggybacked on where Jude was going. They've been redirected back to the same page.
Yes!
Or they could be the one to go to the bakery. Your name, coming up for that assignment, didn't get the planner to acknowledge you in any way. He reacted as distantly as if they said their random cousin Tom Gregg could go. Baxter wasn't intending to mess around with the planning. You could understand that. Do you mind, Kit? I get the fun part. I also like leave it to me. I can go to the bakery. Honestly, you would have volunteered if no one had mentioned you. Getting to snag some one-on-one time with Baxter was a chance you couldn't miss. You were going to do the best work you could to help, but seeing him only in the context of a big group just wasn't the same.
We owe you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Kit will do a good job getting the desserts. Terry nodded at the wisdom in the plan. It was a unanimous decision. Baxter grinned past you in an entirely artificial way. Settled. A few more minor details were laid out before the end of the meeting was officially called. And I think that is where we are going to end this episode. I don't know how long this epilogue, step 4, is going to be. But I mean, that's an hour, so. And the end of the scene. So everything just sort of works out in that way. Like I said, I am excited to see the ways that Baxter has changed, both physically and emotionally, mentally, see the differences. Apparently he can wake up in the morning now, so that's good for him. And this is the part of the game that I have been most excited about. You know, step 3 was, I know we need to get into it because it's like baseline Baxter, but step 4 Baxter with this wedding planning is the version of Baxter that I am most intrigued by, and I am happy that we are finally here. Unfortunately, I do need to end this episode. So, thank you for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this. If you want to see that next episode where we get some one-on-one time with Baxter, you can check out the channel membership to see videos early. Otherwise, I will see you in the next episode for some more Our Life, Beginnings and Always, Baxter's Route.